Hey everyone, welcome to the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. I'm Alexa Dad. This show is all about you, the fan, because you get to join us live and ask your questions to today's special guest, Angels GM Billy Eppler. Now, there are two ways you can ask your question. You can sign up or sign in by hitting the green button below and get in line to ask your question, or you can tweet us using the hashtag Chatting Cage. We will see your questions and ask it to our guest. Without further ado, let's welcome Billy Eppler to the show. Hey, Billy, so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. How's the spring treating you so far?
So far, so good, Alexa. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sure. Let's jump right into it and start about, some of these questions that we really want to get to, some of these burning questions that the fans have been dying to ask you for so long. We want to ask, starting first, the atmosphere. Maddie from UCLA wants to know, what's the atmosphere like so far in the clubhouse this spring with all of these new players coming into the mix?
It's pretty energetic. We're seeing a lot of new faces clearly in here. A lot of guys that have been with some other clubs, so some veteran players. Everybody's meshing very well. There's a lot of optimism in the clubhouse, a lot of energy, and things have been really positive thus far.
All right, we are in the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. We got a fan for you, Billy, that wants to ask you a question. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show. What's your name and what's your question for Billy?
My name is Emily, and is there anyone on your roster you feel can surprise people this season?
Thanks for the question, Emily. On our roster this year, I think we're going to see some movement forward with some of our younger pitchers, whether that's Cam Bedrosian, Blake Parker, who had a tremendous year last year, Keenan Middleton. I think you're going to see some of our younger players kind of take that next step, in their career.
Billy, here in the Edward Jones Chatting Cage, one of the most popular topics is Shohei Ohtani. So let's go ahead and get to the fan who wants to ask you about Shohei Ohtani so far this spring. What's your name and what's your question about Shohei for Billy?
Hey, Billy, I'm Isaac, and my question is, how do you envision Shohei Ohtani fitting into the Angels? Pitcher, designated hitter, outfielder, what's the deal with that?
Our thought process right now is to allow him to continue to pitch and hit. We haven't had him take any balls in the outfield, so when he does appear in the lineup, it will be as a designated hitter, and that'll be, a little bit more circumstantial, based on, what day he pitched previously and what his, what his fuel tank is kind of a word I use all the time to symbolize how much energy he has, how much fuel he has in his body that particular day. And if it's a day that our performance staff clears him, then he could be available in the lineup. So it could be as many as 3 days a week, could be as few as one day. It's just going to depend on how he's doing, how he's recovering, and how he's feeling, because the health of the player is paramount to us.
Well, that leads us right into our EDJ question of the day. Who was the most excited when they found out that Shohei Ohtani chose to play for the Angels this season?
I really couldn't speak for everybody. I know I was very, very excited. I mean, it was Christmas come early. You had an opportunity to get a top prospect in the game, whether it's a number 1, number 2, number 3 prospect, as kind of you see out in the public domain. But you're basically awarded a top prospect and a young player and a 23-year-old kid with loads of talent on both sides of the inning, I should say. When they're whether he's on the mound or whether he's in the batter's box. So to be given that opportunity to be able to procure a player of that kind of talent and that caliber of talent and put that in your organization is a great day for a general manager. It's also a great day for an owner, and it's a great day for the organization in general.
We are here in the Edward Jones Chatting Cage talking to Angels GM Billy Eppler. This is the show run by you, the fans, and that's the best part. We got another fan question for you, Billy. What's your name and what's your question for Billy Eppler?
Hey, I'm Mike. My question is, what do you expect out of Ian Kinsler?
I think Ian, will give us Gold Glove caliber defense. We place him as one of the top 5 defenders at second base, maybe even the top 2 or 3. And so we're going to see that level of defense out of him. We'll see professional at-bats, a guy who understands the strike zone, a guy who can impact the baseball, energy, leadership, a lot of the things that we value as well that he brings in the clubhouse, and just kind of the overall demeanor and character of our club. I think Ian embodies a lot of what we stand for. So love having him here. I've loved getting to know him. He's integrated extremely well with the clubhouse, and yeah, couldn't be happier with where he's at this moment in time.
Another question for you here on Twitter from West Coast Sports. How excited are you to have a healthy Mike Trout for this full season?
Extremely happy. I mean, we're sitting on the best player in baseball, and he's running around every night, patrolling center field for us, and leaving everything out on the field, for the fans, and he's just such a remarkable person as well. As I always talk to his mom and dad, and just always let them know what a great job they did raising him, because he's a really special guy, let alone one of the more talented players I've ever seen.
Yeah, two-time MVP. We're excited to see him this season as well. Here in the Edward Jones chatting cage, fans get the opportunity to connect directly with our special guest. We've got another fan, Billy, who wants to ask you a question. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, I'm Dominic. I want to know how much you're looking forward to playing the defending World Series champion Astros this year.
Look forward to it. I mean, you want to test yourself against the best. So, we're going to play 162 games, and we're going to try to bring our A game for every single one of them. So it doesn't really matter who's across the diamond, but you always look to measure yourself against some of those elite teams or the previous year's playoff teams to get a little bit of a barometer of where you stand. And so, but nonetheless, every game is important. We don't get an extra win if we beat the Astros in a game. They don't give us 2 wins; they only give us 1. So we just try to stay focused on who we're playing that night and bring our A game, like I said.
Speaking of World Series, Rams Nation 7 on Twitter has very big expectations for the Angels this season, as I know you do too. But he asked, what would it mean for the Angels to win their first World Series since 2002?
Oh, it'd be huge. It would be huge for our ownership. It would be huge for our fans. It'd be huge for our community. It'd be huge for our players. It's such a bonding experience when you can go that far and ultimately take home the big prize. Because, from a baseball operations standpoint, you have people contributing, whether that is the amateur scouting department and players that have been drafted by the Angels and come through our player development system. You have the international scouting department if you have players on your roster that are from international, the international domain, whether that's Venezuela or Dominican Republic or Colombia or Japan or what have you. And then you also have the players that you've acquired that have been professionals in other organizations, such as the Ian Kinslers of the world or the Andrelton Simmons of the world. So you have all of these departments, making some level of contribution for a World Series trophy and a World Series ring. Nothing bonds an organization like that.
We have a bunch of people asking us here in the Edward Jones chatting cage on Twitter about your rotation, not only about Shohei Ohtani, but Simpson60 wants to know what a healthy Garrett Richards would mean to this Angels team.
It'd be huge. If we can get somewhere between 29 and 32, 33 starts out of Garrett, that would be very big for us. He's got elite level stuff. He can pitch at the front end of a championship caliber rotation, and I think on any given night he can match up with just about anybody in baseball. And so we love having him, and we hope to be able to run him out there either every 5th or every 6th, or maybe on a particular occasion every 7th day, but depending on how the schedule falls and the off days come. So we'll see, and but getting him through this season will be big for us.
All right, going to another fan here on the Edward Jones chatting cage. What's your name and what is your question for Billy?
Hey, I'm Anthony, and I was wondering, how badly do you want to see Mike Trout in the postseason?
I want to see Mike Trout in the postseason very badly, just like I want to see Ian Kinsler in the postseason and Albert Pujols in the postseason and Andrelton Simmons in the postseason. I want to see our whole group. I don't want to, not one player more than the other. I want to see all of them in the postseason.
All right, Billy, I want to ask you, since we saw Mike Trout driving Shohei Ohtani around in that golf cart, have you ever gotten that special treatment from the two-time MVP?
No, he drives right by me. Usually he'll give me a little wave, and then I just kind of keep on walking. So yeah, I have not been able to to jump into the ride and get a free lift. So he'll hear about it.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, you let us know. Kyle on Twitter wants to know how the bullpen is going to shake out once opening day hits here.
I think you'll see us utilize the bullpen pretty similar to last year, where we kind of categorize our pitchers in a couple different buckets, as we like to call them. We'll have some high leverage guys that you'll see pitch. And when I say high leverage, the easiest way to describe that to a fan or if I'm talking to anybody and they're asking me to define that, just when does your heart rate raise? Whenever your heart rate goes up, that's usually a high leverage situation. So we'll have guys that we utilize in those particular spots, and guys that will also help bridge us, to the deeper innings of the game and come in and clean up a fifth inning or clean up a sixth inning and help get us in that situation. But for us to have a bullpen that works is to have players that are understanding of that and understanding of what we're asking for and knowing that the game situation could dictate when they pitch, not the inning. We had buy-in with our group last year. A lot of the guys are returning this year. They already know the drill, and we've had conversations with some of the guys that are new to the club that this is how we plan to utilize the bullpen this year.
It was so funny. We were checking out Twitter, and, a question came through that actually kind of surprised me and caught me off guard. Mike Scioscia entering his 19th season, the longest tenured manager in baseball. And Devin's question was, what's it like having that kind of stability in the dugout for your team?
I mean, it's important. Guys want to know what to expect. And so anybody that's been here, I mean, obviously we haven't had a player playing that long. So all of these guys that have been here know him and know what he is about. And so it breeds a lot of familiarity and breeds a lot of comfort with our group.
All right. And another question we have here on Twitter in our Edward Jones chatting cage. Lindsay Marie wants to know, what were the biggest things you learned from your team early here in camp?
I think we're going to be a pretty good defensive club, that we have some length in our lineup. There's not a lot of soft spots, I think, for opposing pitchers to kind of navigate into. And, I think we'll play pretty good fundamental baseball. And I think if you're a fan of fundamental baseball, if you're a fan of clean baseball, I think we'll be a pretty entertaining club to watch.
All right, Billy. Angels GM Billy Eppler, really appreciate you joining us. Good luck this season, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot, Alexa. Be well.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. Big thanks to you, the fans, for participating and submitting your questions. We have plenty more Edward Jones Chatting Cages coming up throughout the season, so make sure you stay tuned. I'm Alexa Dat. We'll see you then.